Hello. I think I'm here. I don't know. I'm having some craziness going on with my computer. But that happens. It's life. It's okay. It's just that I'm still getting used to this new setup I have here. But that's all right. Got it figured out now, I think. Maybe. We'll see. And how are y'all? Hello. Um, I don't have my book out about prayer requests, which is the same as everyone, which I think all of you guys were here Tuesday. The same as Tuesday. I haven't gotten any new requests. Um, but Donna's friend's friend, remember her in your prayers, and also Robin, Donna's husband. Um, Ireland's doing better. That's good. I was about to mention her, Amy's daughter, Ireland. Did she actually pull a muscle, or is it just soreness from dance? Um, and then, of course, remember Joanne because she's still dealing with different things with her health. Remember Selena. Always remember Selena because just feel like that's important. And also yesterday, when whenever I went to Mama's, while we were there, well, we just got started, Donna. While I was there, or Noah and I were there, one of my sisters, Gladys, my oldest sister, told us that she has COVID. So keep her in your prayers. And also, while I was there, I can't remember exactly how long ago it was, but I had asked y'all to pray for my sister Denise because she was losing sight in one of her eyes. Her eyesight was weird, and they were trying to figure out what was going on. She's been diagnosed with Sjogren's. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or not, but it's an autoimmune disease, one or the other. Anyway, it's autoimmune, and she's going to several doctors, and one for her eyes, one for like the other symptoms, and she's going to a rheumatologist on the 24th of this month. She had suspected that was what was going on with her before, and her doctor would never test her for it because one of my niece's son, so it's my great nephew, he was diagnosed with it years ago, and so my sister said you need to get tested for this, and her doctor would never test her, so she went to another doctor and she got tested, and they're going through all the process of trying to figure out what is the best plan for her, and everything. She's 2 years younger than me. Well, almost three. It was around three. Let's just say 2 years. A little over 2 years younger than me. But y'all see me. I'm like, well, I'm not a lot taller than her, but she's like 5 foot tall and this big around. She's like super tiny. And she's Steven's mama. You saw how tiny Steven was at 9 years old. So his mama's tiny. But anyway, she's always, even though she's a grown woman, has 4 kids, married forever and all this, she's still my little sister. And for some reason, I don't know, I feel a little bit more protective, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know. But anyways, keep her in your prayers. Her name is Denise, and Gladys is my oldest sister. If there's anyone else, just let us know in the comments. If you want it to be private, as always, you can send me an email. And I'm going to tell you guys right now that I do not feel confident in this study. Probably the reason why I was thinking about it this morning, praying about it this morning, I was asking God, why don't I feel as good as I normally do with my other studies? Why don't I feel okay with this study? Like, not that I don't feel okay, like it's a bad study or anything, but let me just finish before I keep interrupting myself. But I don't feel very confident in the study, and I think it's because there are so many chapters each week to talk about. So in my thoughts, because of the way we normally do our studies, and we've been doing those over a year now, isn't it? I don't even know how long we've been doing those, but it may be close to 2 years. I don't know. Anyways, the way I normally do those, I read y'all what I read out of the Bible. I read, what it says, and then we discuss, and, as we go. I am not reading 21 chapters. So I think that's what kept messing with my mind is that's 21 chapters. How are you going to have time to go over all that? How are you going to be able to? Well, we're not going to go over all of it. That's just not how it's going to go. I had to help myself understand that's not what normally happens in Bible studies. You don't go over every single chapter the way we do in our other studies. So I'm okay with it now. I still feel a little bit less confident about it, but I don't feel very confident in the other one either. So I'm just going to let it happen the way it happens. But I have been putting up the scriptures each week on Sundays. Hopefully they'll go up the way they're supposed to. Y'all help me stay accountable. If you don't see it go up by Sunday at 6 p.m., let me know for the rest of this year till we finish this study. But I know some of you bought both of the books, but you don't have to buy both of the books. I'm going to go over the questions in both of the books, and I am going to read what it says in the books. I may not read it word for word because I don't know if I actually can legally. But yeah, we're going to go over the questions. And we might talk about some of the scriptures and stuff like that, but we're not going to go over all of it. I just can't do it. But Donna got me to thinking this morning, I was not using this Bible whenever I was reading this. In all honesty, I was using my app on my phone, and I was using my other Bible, and I was using my eSword. I was not using just one certain one. But she brought out a good point this morning. I believe it was this morning or it was last night. I read it this morning, I think, because she wrote it last night. But talking about the cultural backgrounds, and I'm still looking for a website that I can share with you guys that talks about the culture in the Bible. But this Bible is a cultural backgrounds Bible, so I pulled it out to see if maybe that might help us through this. And I may read a little bit of the excerpts out of it. We'll see. We're flying by the seat of our pants today. All I did for notes is answer the questions. And I don't know if all of you are going to want to share your answers. I feel like my answers are kindergarten. They're just like, I don't know. It's just what came to my mind whenever I read the question. So that's the way that I answered them. But I am going to start with this book first. And I know that the way it says to do the studies, we're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to pair off or get into groups. We are miles and miles apart. It's just not possible. But we'll just do what we can to we don't have to do exactly like the book says anyway. It doesn't matter. But it does go over the things you need and what's in the book and all of that stuff. And it tells you, what's in the book. This book outlines daily scripture reading for all 52 weeks of the year. You will find suggested readings from the Bible for 6 days of every week. On the seventh day, you're encouraged to catch up on any readings that you may have missed during the week. So it also has a bit of a commentary, which is what we're probably going to be using. But the first week is there's nothing too hard for God, which most of us know that, but we don't know that. That's my thing. Sometimes I question God. Like, not like if he can do it or something, but because I know he can do anything. But if he's going to do it, if it's what God wants to be done. Like, I have in my life wanted things, but honestly, it wasn't really what was best for me. So I don't think that's what God wanted to have done. So he didn't do it, that kind of thing. And sometimes things might be it might be not too hard for God to give us what we ask for, but it's too hard for us to understand why he's not giving it to us. And maybe we might think it's too hard for him, if that makes sense. That's how my mind works. I try to explain myself, but I don't do very well sometimes, I feel. But it's not as if it's too hard for God, but it's too hard for us to comprehend what God is doing. And later on we see, oh, that's why that happened. That's what was happening there. That's what he did. So I want to read a little bit on page 3. If you have the book, then you know what it says. But I don't know if I can actually read all of it without copyright infringement. That's the thing. Because I don't want to do that. It says that no part of the publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, scanning, or otherwise, except as permitted under sections 107 and 108 of the 1976 United States Copyright Act without the prior permission. Okay, so I'm not like copying the pages and stuff, so I don't know. I don't know how it works, but how do you do it if you're actually in a Bible study together? I don't know. But Kimberly D. Moore is the first one's written by. And I did notice, of course, the second one is different. We probably could have done this one this year and the other one next year. But it's okay. We're doing it now. But she says that her purpose is to encourage you. I'm not going to read word for word. That way I don't get in trouble. While you focus on the needs of those around you, remember that God has not forgotten about you. He hears your prayers and remembers your heart's desires and struggles. He posed a question to Abraham in Genesis 18:14. Is anything too hard for the Lord? So let's go over to that. I'm going to go over to that. I can't turn pages today. 18:14. It says, and what I want to do is bring out what was before and after that, because I don't want to take things out of context, which I don't think she did. That's not my point. And the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I surely bear a child, since I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, no, you did laugh. And it makes me think about, I don't remember if it was in a study we did or another study that I did. I know I talked about it at multiple times. But if you remember, Abraham laughed whenever he was told he was going to have a child at that age. And then Sarah laughed, but she was reprimanded. And I'm wondering, was it the difference in their heart? Was it the difference in the way they felt? And God knew that she was just doubting God, and Abraham was just like overjoyed and saying, is this really going to happen? Is this, he was that kind of laugh. It makes me wonder about that. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring it out, because they're talking about having a child at 90 and 100 years old. You don't think about that. If a woman has a child at 50 now, people are like freaking out. It's like, what? How? Why? What? How did that happen? Because most of the time, nowadays, by the time a woman is 50, she can't bear children. She's usually done. She's gone through the change of life, and she just can't do it anymore. And so it makes me wonder, was it her doubting God? And that's why he said, I want to say it right, is anything too hard for the Lord? Maybe that's why. And it makes me want to say we need to control how we think about things, what we feel about things, matters whenever it comes to the way we're thinking. So then it goes on, and the answer to that is absolutely nothing is too hard for God. Ephesians 3:20 says that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask and think, according to the power that works in us. There's nothing you could think of or ask that God cannot do. And when I was reading this, I was thinking, yeah, there's a lot of things that we ask for, and He could do it. But is it best? Is it what we need? Like, I feel like, and I know that I've talked about this a lot, but I feel like there's a lot of things in my life that I've gone through. And I feel like the season I'm in right now is the hardest. And like, I was talking to my sisters yesterday, and I was sitting there and talking to them, and I said, I used to sit there when they were talking about different things their children were doing, and most of the time it was a little thing. But I would sit there and I would think, we'd be having conversations, and I didn't have anything to add, to complain about. My children weren't doing this, they weren't doing that, they weren't doing all the things. And I told them yesterday, I said, I used to sit here and think that y'all were probably thinking I was lying, that I was keeping stuff from y'all, that my children were just not that good. And I sat there and I thought so many times that they were thinking I was a liar, But all those times I felt guilt pretty much because my children were good and their children were doing things, even though they weren't really that big of a thing, getting in trouble a little bit or acting out a little bit, nothing major. And then I was like, my daughter just up and leaves home. It's completely out of character without us knowing it, that she's going to do it. And then it's like all the bad happened at once. All the things that they complained about, all the things that their children did, my child did in one fell swoop, is what it felt like. It makes no sense to me. It probably does not make any sense to y'all. It probably didn't make any sense to them. Needless to say, we were crying. But I thought about that yesterday morning when I was getting dressed and everything. I was like, because I had not seen one of my sisters in a little while. I don't think I had seen her since Selena left, but I can't remember. My mind is not very good lately with remembering things. But knowing that all these years that we've discussed things, and like, yeah, my children did things, but they weren't that big of a deal. They were like little bitty things, nothing that would really cause embarrassment, cause problems, cause heartache. They were easily, excused. And I thought so many times with this thing with Selena, what she has done is forgivable, but it's not excusable, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of times, if God had let me not have all those times hearing that my sisters were going through these things and how they handled them, would I have been able to handle what I'm handling now? If I had not heard all those years of not complaining, they were just like, we were just talking and catching up and talking about things our kids did and talking about, asking for prayer from each other, stuff like that. It was not a complaining session whenever we talked. It was just, I need y'all to pray about this, so-and-so's doing this, that kind of thing. Well, if I had not heard all of those things, would I be able to do this now? Yes, I would. Because I have God and it's not too hard for Him. If that makes sense. And I don't know why that is something that kept settling in my mind when I was reading any of this, because it has nothing to do with the study. Not to me, but it does. I mean, it's like, how am I going to make this? This is why I felt totally inadequate. I don't know how I'm going to make any of this, my thoughts, make sense, because I don't know if I'm traveling away from the study. If I am, forgive me, help me to get back. But the question was, is anything too hard for God? No, it's not. And I said to them yesterday, I said, even if she never speaks to me again, which crushes me that she's not talking to us. If she got right with the Lord, that's all I care about. I don't care about the rest. And I know He can bring her back. I know He can do that. So I'm not going to let anything get in my way and think that it's too hard for God. I'm not going to be like Sarah. I'm not going to laugh and say, really? No, you can't do that. I'm not going to tell God He can't, because I know He can pull her back to Him and He can woo her, if that makes sense. But I don't know why. Well, no, I do know why. It's because she is always on my mind, and everything ends up going back to her for some reason, which in some ways it's been very hard with all of it, because I don't want to overwhelm Jeff or Noah, if that makes sense. So anyway, that's just one of the biggest things that I've gone through in my life that someone else had control over, and I had no control over. And it's I have to rely on God is my whole point. Why didn't I just say that? I don't know. Yeah, it's hard for us to handle. It is. But God can handle anything. So let's go on. On the story of Sarah and Abraham, God told Abraham that He would make him a great nation, and from him all the families of the earth will be blessed. Yeah, Flora knows, because she's been through a lot with her youngest. I've been through a lot with my youngest, but not like her. She's been through so many things. And she's one of the sisters that I would sit there and I would think, she's going through all this horror with her baby. And I don't have anything to compare it to. I can't help her. Yes, I can sympathize, but I don't know. All I can do is pray. But I would wonder, does she think I'm blind? Does she think that my children are, not as good as they, because they have never really gotten into trouble. They've never done stupid things. And not like big things, not anything even halfway major. So it's like, but then I look back at all the stupid things I've done, the time I ran away from God, all that time that I was, out there where I shouldn't have been, and I wasted those years. And God brought me back. That's all I can, we got to know that. But anyway, God had promised nations. He had promised a great nation from the family, and that all the families would be blessed. And we know the story of how that they just, well, wait. No, I can't. I'm going ahead of the Bible, the study. Ain't I? Am I? What am I? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not going ahead. Y'all, I've gotten a little bit mixed up too, because we're reading next week's stuff already. So I'm trying not to get into next week's stuff yet. But anyway, we know that Sarah and Abraham, or Abram and Sarai at the time, they got ahead of God. And sometimes we do that. We get ahead of God and we try to help Him. Well, they were trying to help God. And whenever they did that, and they brought Hagar into the picture, and Ishmael was born, they tried to help God. We can't help God. We have no control. But well, there it is in the next part of this book. Oh my goodness. But God He didn't ordain that. He didn't say it's okay. He didn't say, go ahead, have a baby that way. It's still going to be the promised one. But He did give that child nations as well, which I would like to do a study, maybe in our after we get done with 2 Samuel, do a study on where his nations went, if y'all are on board with that. But we'll talk about that later, where the Ishmael's nations, what they are. But anyway, because that's definitely getting ahead of this. But the whole point of this week's study was for us to see that nothing is too hard for God, that we can't get ahead of God and we can't help God. And as long as we keep putting our hands in it, as long as we keep trying to do this or trying to do that, or saying this or saying that, we're going to mess it up. Because I feel like we can mess up God's plans because He gave us free will to do things. And we can mess up His plans, not change His plans, because as we see in this story, Isaac was still born. He's still the promised child. And God's plan does prevail. But we can put our hands in there and cause for other things to happen that God, he didn't let it, He didn't plan it, but He knew it was going to happen. It's like, sometimes I wonder, and I'd like for God to answer me, but, we won't know this until the time we get to heaven. But I wonder sometimes if God is like, okay, I know you were going to do this, but I was really hoping you wouldn't, because you're really messing with my plans. He let stuff happen just to teach us a lesson. And I wonder, with this story, if Abraham and Sarah really learned a lesson. Because they ended up, wait a minute, is that the next chapters? Am I going ahead of myself? Y'all already know. Y'all read it too. They ended up throwing her out. They throw Hagar and Ishmael out. Y'all know that. If it's next week, don't grab the wheel as it leads to a train wreck. Yeah, it does lead to a train wreck. But there's a lot of things that we can do that gets in God's way. Not that He can't stop us from getting in His way, but He's not going to stop us because He gave us free will. He will give us warnings. He will give us that still small voice, and He'll whisper in our ear, but we have to hear Him. We have to listen to that voice. We have to be the ones who are strong enough in Him to actually hear Him. And the only way we can hear Him and to be strong enough in Him is to stay in the Word and to pray. And a lot of things that happened in Abraham and Sarah's story, I just wonder, because we know things happened that shouldn't have happened, that let's see, I don't want to get ahead. I'm afraid I'm going to get ahead. Maybe I should have wrote notes, and I will do that for next week. And some Ishmael's descendants of the Palestinians. I think so, Tammy. That's why I want to do a study just on his descendants to find out where they went, where they came from. And like after we're done with 2 Samuel, do that study, and maybe we can understand things more about why the world is so corrupt. Why that people don't actually, like, I believe that in the beginning, people listened to God a lot more than they do now. Even though Adam and Eve sinned, we know that, we read that. Even though they sinned and they did wrong, they got ahead of God. They tried to outsmart God, and they still, they changed world history because of Him. But I believe there's a lot of things that wouldn't have happened if the people would just do what God says. And you'll see and hear people ran from God. They didn't listen to God. They tried to make deals with God. Like Abraham made, he's like, well, if there's this many people, are you gonna, not destroy Sodom and Gomorrah and things like that, There was a lot of different things that happened. I'm so afraid I'm going to get ahead, but I know I didn't yet. And then, like, Lot's 2 girls. I know I'm jumping back to another place, but Lot's 2 girls. Okay. It seems to me God's plan is perfect, even though the things we consider bad, we may think we are getting in His way, but He always used it for His glory and someone's blessing. That's true, Val. He does use our mess ups for His glory. It does all turn out the way it should, because if it didn't, then it wouldn't be His plan. And He has a plan for everything. It's like, you know how sometimes we'll make a plan, then we'll make a plan B and plan C and plan D. You know, God knows what we're going to do before we do it. And we can't mess up His plan totally. We can mess ourselves up, but we can't mess up His plan, if that makes sense. But y'all know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. You should have read it anyways. How that it was destroyed, and then how that Lot's wife turned around and she turned to a pillar of salt. But there was something that really got to me when I was reading this. They were in a town. That's where Lot had taken them, because God said, yes, take them to the town. Even though God said, go to the mountains, go to the mountains. Lot said, no, let me go to this town. So God said, okay, go to the town. Do what you want to do, go to the town. But then Lot went to the mountains like God said later. Then his two daughters thought there were no men. How would they think that when they were in a town right before this? That part right there, I had never thought about that. That never crossed my mind until I read it this time. And I thought, wait a minute. Why do his two children, the only two that are still alive, because he had other children that didn't come out of Sodom and Gomorrah. I think about the life of Christ. If we were living in that time, most of the things that happened to Jesus, we might perceive as a curse, or he was messing up in some human way, but it was all part of God's plan. That's true, Val. That is very true. But these two girls, yeah, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, but they knew that wasn't the only place. They knew that wasn't the only city, because they were in this town. I think, what's the name of the town? Zoar. I think that's how you say it. They were in Zoar, and then he left Zoar and went up into the mountains with his two daughters, because he was afraid to dwell there. And he went and dwelled in a cave. I don't know why he'd be afraid to dwell in that place when God said, go there if you want to. It was his choice to go there. But for some reason, he was afraid. But what gets me is his daughters got him drunk 2 nights, got him drunk, and lay with him and got pregnant. Why did they think there were no other men? Did that get to y'all too? I don't know. Maybe it just got to me. But it did cause the Moabites and the Ammonites. And we know that's not the way it should have been. But yeah, that bothered me. That they just came from a town. They knew there were other men. They knew they could get married. They knew they could have children. They knew they could carry on their father's legacy. Or maybe they thought, since they were the only girls, that I know that it's got something, it may have something to do with the bloodline and everything, because sons were the ones that carried it on, and he had no sons. I don't know. It did bother me though a lot. But anyway, I don't know. That just bothered me. All right, so let's try to get to some questions. I don't know. The points to ponder in this book. It says, when you are faced with an impossibility, how did you handle it? I hadn't thought of that until now. Thanks for bringing it up. It's weird to me. Why did they think there were no men? I don't see why they would think that when they had just come from a town. Because I guess every other time I read it, I just read they went to the mountains. I didn't even pay attention that they went to a town first. And for whatever reason, it just kept going, and I just read on, and I didn't ever think about it. But this time I was like, wait a minute, they were just in a town. Towns have other people. They left that town for fear, but why? Yeah, they wanted to carry on his seed, but I don't know. I don't care. I would just let it die. It just have to die. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. That's me though. Total different time. The culture was way different. But I want to go ahead and read some of this, the points to ponder. And if y'all have anything else y'all want to say, y'all go ahead and I'm looking at it. But and I'll tell you what I said. And like I said, my answers feel like kindergarten answers. They were men and they thought their father had to have a male child for his bloodline to continue. Yeah, I know, Flora, but I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. It's just gross. But I know things were different then. I know that brothers and sisters married, cousins married. I know all that. It's just weird to me, though. It's so weird. Okay. When you're faced with an impossibility, how did you handle it? After this lesson, how will you handle those impossibilities going forward? I've already kind of answered this. I'm in an impossibility now with Selena. And the only way I've handled it is with prayer. Abraham and Sarah had the same father. Yes, they did. They had the same father, and that's why they kept telling people they were brother and sister, which was true. But it got them in some. It hurt some folks. They didn't have to hide that. It hurt people whenever they did that, which we know, we've been reading it. But I'm in the and one of the things is some people might say, well, you lost your daddy. How can this be the impossibility? Well, Daddy had no control. He had no control over what happened to him. He fought it. He tried. That's the difference. Yeah, it got you when Jacob lied. Yeah. But the impossibility now is that's the only way I can answer that. That's the only thing that came to my mind. And then the second question, and if y'all want to answer too, y'all can. It's up to y'all. What has this lesson taught you about your faith? And I put, when we follow God and obey Him, we will be okay. And I know that. I know that we will be okay because of what God is doing, which Donna's getting ahead of us, y'all. But I know that we're going to be all right. Yeah, I'm noticing things I never noticed before. So I'm glad we did this. But yeah. And that's why I wanted to do this, is maybe we'll be able to point things out that we saw that we can help each other to see, stuff that we never saw before and be like, oh, wow, that does say that. And I believe that God plans for us to be together, to read His Word together too. That's what I believe He means by don't forsake the assembly. But anyway, let's see, where was I at? Oh, the second one, that was my answer. And I told y'all mine are kindergarten answers. What areas have you discovered where you are strong in faith? And what areas have you discovered where your faith needs to be strengthened? Oh, I'm on the wrong part. Oh, I'm not even reading the right answers. The second one, my faith needs to be stronger, not the other part. I'm reading from the second book. Yeah. Donna's getting ahead again. Y'all, she got me printing out a whole entire conversation we had, because we're going to talk about that next week. I've heard that up until a certain time, because genetically it was safe, God allowed incest. Yes, that is true. Still, to me, I mean, back then they didn't have the same thought process we do. To fulfill His command to multiply, but then when God says stop because of change genetics, we had to stop. Yeah. And our minds are different now, and we have to think about that. Those girls' minds were not where our minds are. But it's still gross to me because of where my mind is. But I can see why they did it. They wanted to carry on their father's family. I've heard it probably 100 times, but I was so intrigued. Yeah. I feel like this time I'm seeing stuff I didn't see before, just like I always do. I'm like, you always see different stuff. It may be that you weren't supposed to see it before. It might be that you're in a different place, in a different mindset, in a different, all kinds of things. Maybe you just didn't, maybe you weren't supposed to see it. But my answer is, I believe without a doubt that God loves me. That was where areas where you strong in faith. I know without a doubt that God loves me. And then the second one was, what areas have you discovered where your faith needs to be strengthened? And my answer was, my weakness is I want to rush God. I want him to do it on my timetable. I want it now. I want things to be now. And that's not good. I can't do that. That's not true faith. I mean, I can't say that I fully trust God, that I know he's going to do it. But me trying to rush him, that's just not good. I'm not doing things to rush him, though, actually, Donna. I'm not actually putting my fingers in the porridge. I'm not doing that. I don't even know where the putting my fingers in the porridge thing came from. I heard it somewhere before. But I'm not stirring the pot. After this lesson, what are some impossibilities that you will commit to prayer? And my children, I've seen a lot of things with Noah since Selena left that he's dealing with a lot. He's dealing with a lot. And I have prayed for him more than I ever have, I do believe, since all of this. And I believe that's the place where that I need to commit to prayer more than what I was. And I have been, but let's see, I didn't hear some of what you said because kids are loud. So you may have already talked about the incest thing. Not really. I didn't talk about it. No, I didn't. No, I didn't, Val. And it's good that it's there because, reiteration, is that the word? I sometimes think I know words, but I really don't. But we're going to try. And then it's got actions for the week of things we can do. On the bottom part, decide in your heart to think and speak positively, replacing negative words with positive ones. I've been trying to do that. Make a commitment to yourself to intentionally respond to your doubts with declarations of faith. Like anytime I have doubt, a scripture, I need to bring it up. I need to bring up what God said, not, other things. At the end of the week, note how speaking positively into your life has begun to have good impact on your outlook, ability to trust God, which I believe we can tell ourselves lies or we can tell ourselves truth. And I believe whenever we have a bad thought, we say, no, God said this in his word. That will change us. The other book that I was reading, the answers, the wrong ones. Let's look at it and see what it says. And I don't think everybody bought the book. I feel like it could have been a total different study, though. From the very beginning, God was present and active. A beautiful yet complex book of Genesis. The beautiful yet complex book of Genesis offers insight into the origins of the world, the imaginations of God, and where we fit in. The narratives are written with the troubles and triumphs of the audience in mind. We read creation, human activity, sin, genealogies, flood stories, covenants, tests and trials, curses and blessings, beginnings and death. From the exploitation of the environment to the mistreatment of women, we hear of the complexities present in the world. Now, this right here bothered me a lot because I don't know much about this author. I don't know much about either one of the authors. But that part sounded kind of like a feminist thing. And I'm not into feminism. I believe it hurt women. I know some of y'all might be, and I hope that you don't hate me for saying that. But that kind of did sound a little bit like that. I don't know, like part of it did. But we can go on and see what she's actually saying. I haven't read much of the book, y'all. I don't know yet. But I mean, women were mistreated in the Bible. We're not going to lie and say they weren't. But men were too. I mean, you thought the same thing? Like, you think about his name just went right out of my head. Oh, my goodness. Help me, somebody. The strong one. Oh, why can't I think? The Nazarene. Was he a Nazarene? Yes. No. He didn't cut his hair. What was his name? Why can't I think? Samson, yes. He was mistreated by a woman. So that part right there kind of bothered me. There were men mistreated too. So there was evil all around. There was good too. I don't know. Maybe it was just my brain that said that, but I could be wrong. All right, let's just keep going. The stories of Genesis allow us to see that no matter what happens to us, we can always begin again and lean into our lives to grow. God's universal actions lands right in our living rooms. Okay, so I'm not going to read it all because I don't know. Maybe y'all have the book. I don't know if you have the book. But this one is a little bit different. It actually has like Genesis 1-4. How does knowing that God created everything make you look at the world differently? Okay, and I didn't learn that God created everything during this study, but I can still answer that question. Whenever I learned that God created everything, and not really when I learned it because I've known it forever, but when it really sunk in, when I really thought about God made those weeds. They're supposed to be weeds, but actually now I found out a lot of them are medicinal, but that's a whole different story. But God made those weeds that we are annoyed by. God made those animals that bug us, that actually we took their land. We're not going to get on that one either. But whenever I look at the fact that God made all of these things, God made storms. God has a reason for the rain. God has a reason for the lightning, for the thunder, the things that we don't like, which I like rain, but I don't like the lightning. I don't like the thunder. I don't want to, I don't like bugs that invade my home. I don't like, those kinds of things, which I don't have bugs invading my home, but I do have every once in a while flies, that kind of thing. God made all of that. He had a reason for it. He made sneaky cats that are going in the room and they're not supposed to. But we have to know we are destroying ourselves. But it's in the end of the Bible. Yeah, we are destroying ourselves. We are. But what I wrote down is it makes me see the beauty in a lot more of what is around me. And I look for the purpose of why he created those things. Instead of getting angry about why he made the ants or why the ants are there, I look at the reason why. If you really think about ants, they actually tunnel under the ground and all this stuff, and they keep the ground from being so hard. They help places. Yes, we want to have them out of our footpath. We don't want them biting us. We don't want them, but they do have a purpose. Some people get grossed out by worms. I don't. But some people get grossed out by worms, but worms are there for making, I don't want fire ants around me. But worms are there for a reason. Even snakes. Everything has a reason. And no, I don't want them in my house. No, I don't want them in my area. But I'm okay with them being over there in their own place. As long as they're not attacking the humans. That kind of thing. I'm okay with all the worms being under the ground, which worms don't bother me. But it actually upsets me if I'm in my garden and I accidentally cut one or something. It really upsets me a lot. But they are very good for the ground. But they all have their purpose. Everything has its purpose. Even my crazy dog who barks all the time, incessantly sometimes. Well, not all the time. It annoys me that she barks, but God made her bark for a reason. Like, she barks at nothing. She barks at the air. But God made her bark for a reason. Whatever that is. I may not know what it is. She does, though. There's a reason. Maybe she's talking to her friends. So I try to look at that, even though it sounds ridiculous. I do. All right, and then number 2, what did you learn about protection from God reading the story of Noah? That's Genesis 5-8. And that's the answer I had read earlier. When we follow God and obey Him, we will be okay. Noah and his family, they probably looked pretty crazy building that, whenever he was building that ark. He probably looked insane. Because at that time, there had been no rain. There was a layer of water above and below. There was no rainfall. And when I really studied that and figured that out, that was whenever I was homeschooling my kids. That's how I figured out there had been in the firmament. There was water above and below, but there was no rain. So these people, like, he's building a boat on dry land, and they're like, "Dude, what are you doing? That thing is huge. You can't put that over there in the ocean. What are you doing?" You know, that I'm not. They might not have said that. They probably didn't say "dude" at all, but they were probably making fun of him, joking on him, or picking on him, and all this other stuff. But in the end, that crazy, from what they saw, is what saved his family, and he was obedient, and they were okay. They got to carry on. They got to have children, and their children had children, and all of that. So, and there was incest with that part too. So, just saying, that's how it worked. They all listened, and they were protected because they listened. All right, and then number 3, Genesis 9-12. How do you see God's covenant with people and every living thing today? What I see a lot is people throwing the covenant away. They're not living as they should. God gave us a blessing whenever He gave us a covenant. Whenever His covenant of taking care of us and loving us, and whenever we spit in God's face and throw it away, that's not good. But that's what I see. I see people who actually know what God's word says just throw it away all the time. And I did it at one point. I can't say that I wasn't, ever in that situation. I did it before. I walked away from God. Thankfully, I listened and I came back. Because if I hadn't, I'd probably be crazy, right? Like, not the good crazy, not the silly crazy that I am, not the weird crazy that I am. I would be crazy, the one you don't want. Something I noticed that I never noticed was that the Bible never said how Cain died, although by the flood we know he did, not meaning to change the subject. I never thought about that. Now you have me thinking about something else that we were talking about, Donna. Help me remember. Because you remember us talking about the mark and all that. No, don't be sorry, because you just made me think about something that I never thought about. What happened to Cain's curse when the flood happened? We're talking about the flood. You're not doing anything wrong. What happened to Cain's curse whenever the flood happened? Is Noah in Cain's lineage? Is one of Noah's daughter-in-laws part of Cain's lineage? Was his wife part of Cain's lineage? Makes me wonder. That makes me wonder. Okay, now Donna's she sends me emails and she tells me, like, I was thinking about this, and then she gets me to searching, and then we're just trying to figure it out. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just let it be. But yeah, what did happen to his curse when the flood happened? Now everybody's going to be wondering. But that's what this Bible study's for, is for us to get to talking about things and learning more from God's word. That is the whole purpose of this. Okay. Man, now my brain is in a whole different place. All right, number 4, Genesis 13 through 15. What are some of Abraham's characteristics you see in Genesis 14? Everybody needs to find out why. We're all going to study, figure it out, and maybe next week we can talk about it, because that does make me wonder what happened to Cain's curse when the flood happened. That's why I say we need to figure out like the different lineages where that they went. Okay, so see, that's why I like this study. But us studying together raises all of starting first. Okay. To me, it's he seemed confident. Abraham did, and he was able. He seemed to be strong in his faith, and he wasn't selfish, because Genesis 13 through 15. Can you get your, okay. I did get this other monitor working, y'all. I figured it out. Let's see. They had parted, Abraham and Lot had. And whenever they had, see who begat who. Yeah. Now I can't get my mind back onto this study, because now I want to know. Oh my goodness. It's all right though. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot was separated from him, lifted thine eyes. Anyway, Abraham had like protected Lot. He had saved him. He had gotten him out of trouble and stuff. And then they separated, and Lot went his way, and Abraham went his way, or it was Abram at the time. And then whenever it was time to separate the spoils and all that stuff, he was confident. He was like, it was okay that he had what he needed. God was providing for him. So he knew what he was supposed to be doing. And he wasn't selfish. Oh my goodness. I'm way off now. Okay, number 5. Genesis 16 through 18, like Abraham and Sarah, in what ways can we be more available to receive what God has for you? Okay, ways can you be more available to receive what God has for you? And I said I could stay in the Word and always be open to God's plan. I could stay out of His way. That's what we need to do, is stay out of His way. And Genesis 19 through 21, God hears our cries just as He heard Hagar's. When has God answered your cries? Have you taken time to enjoy creation? What are you thankful for? And I said He had heard my cries when I asked for peace in hard situations, because God has given me peace a lot of times in hard situations. Usually that's what I ask God for, is peace, because whenever I'm at peace, I can think more. I can see, the brighter side, so to speak. I can see the better. And I won't get in His way as much. And so that's what He has given, what I've asked for in the hard situations. And yes, I do take time to enjoy creation. That's one thing that Jeff and I do. Like, we go out and we're outside. We're doing things that out in the middle of nowhere. He created that. There's no human that has messed with it. You know what I'm saying? And I enjoy that. I enjoy doing that. And I'm thankful for the too many things to list is what I wrote down. There's too many things that I'm thankful for. I can't name just a couple of things. Like the whole month of November, it was hard. Like, I did the 30 days of thankfulness and the challenge, and naming one was hard. Okay, Lois, you be careful driving. Which you said you had to, so you're already not driving anymore. But, oh no, my phone thought I was talking to it. I don't even know what was going on. I'm not talking to you, phone. So, it's got like the icebreaker and all that stuff, pair off and spend 7 minutes learning 7 things about your partner and all that stuff. We can't do that. Then it's got group discussion. Since we're all part of God's creation, God declares we're good and worthy. How do you honor this? By taking care of yourself. Honestly, I have not taken care of myself like I should. I try to, and then I fall off. And I try to, and then I fall off. I try to eat better than what I used to. I try not to eat as much junk. I'm not saying I don't eat junk. I'm not saying I don't drink sodas. That would be a lie. I ain't lying. But I do try to keep my blood pressure down because that's one of my ailments. And I do try to do things the way I should, and I'm trying to do better. Have you ever been mistreated by another woman? See, this is where it's getting into more of the other stuff. What did God reveal to you to help you move forward? Okay, I don't understand why that it's pointing out just the women part, but yeah, I've been mistreated by other women. We all have been mistreated by men. We all have. I mean, at some point, somebody has mistreated us of either the same gender or an opposite gender. I mean, it happens. But what do I do to help me move forward is I try to forgive, and usually I try to forget, but sometimes that's hard. And I have found that forgiving someone for their wrongdoing is a whole lot more to help you than it is to help them. Because most of the time, they don't even know. They don't even care. Have you created anything lately that brings you joy? Well, yeah, I did today. I made a oatmeal berry bake thing, and it was joyful because it worked out. I know that's ridiculous, but that is creating something. Cooking is creating something. So I don't know. Did I create anything? I don't know. Get away from them, forgive them, but do not elevate them regardless of sex to their level of your life that they were. Yeah, like sometimes you have to love people from a distance. You have to. It's not that you're going to be mean to them or hateful to them or do anything like that, but you can't allow them to be a big part of your life. So, and then it's got a guided prayer, which I never do like guided prayers. Do y'all? I don't know. You can't help those who don't want it. Yeah. That's true. If they don't want help, you can't help them. But how do y'all feel about guided prayers? Like whenever somebody writes out a prayer, like, okay, I'm not talking about whenever you write out your prayer. That's something different. But whenever, like in a devotion or something, whenever the author writes out a prayer for you to pray, it feels weird to me. It doesn't feel authentic. It drives me nuts. Like guided meditation, like it also drives me nuts. It's like, I don't know. I don't like that part. I'm very agitated. So I guess we did get through the first of these, but there's a whole lot of questions now. I've got to find out what happened to Cain's lineage. Like, y'all, I gotta go cook supper in a little while. I don't have time to be doing this right now. I'm just joking. But no, now you got me wanting to see. Here's the thing with Donna. She makes you think about things you don't think about. So you want to go research it, and then you're like digging and you forget what you were supposed to be digging for sometimes. But I always get back to it. It's fine. But she will help you study for sure. So I'm glad Donna's here. But she makes you think about things you didn't think about. I didn't ever think about that. What happened to Cain's lineage after the flood? And that's why I said for Tuesdays after we're done, we can do topical studies, and we could do like some genealogical studies too, I guess, or the Bible stuff. Yeah, she's good at that. She makes you think about stuff that you didn't think about, and a lot of y'all do though. That's why I like having y'all in the studies, because you help me, and that's what studies are for. That's what the group studies are for, is so that we can help each other. You just think of stuff, and so does my husband. Yeah, she'll make you learn more. I mean, honestly, there are things since I started reading this. I mean, I have read the Bible through several times, I don't know how many times. I have read it chronologically. I have read it normally, the canonically, however you say the word. And there's things that I think about that are different every single time. I'm like, wait a minute, how did I miss that? How did I miss that this time? And so whenever Jeff gets home tonight, I'm going, actually, I may ask him at lunch to talk to his friend Arthur, because Arthur used to send me little notes home and ask me about stuff. And we would like long distance study, kind of, because like he would like want my thoughts on what the Bible said. We haven't done that in a long time. But I'm going to send Jeff a text after we're done. And I'm going to ask him to ask Arthur, what's he think happened to Cain's people, his lineage after the flood, because I'd like to know what he thinks too. But yeah, I like to have people in my life that make me think about different things in the Bible, so that it'll make me dig more. And if we're digging more, that means we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. That's my opinion. Anyway. But I guess that's all for today. And did y'all like 2:30, or does that work for y'all? 2:30? Or do y'all want to try it for a little bit, and then if something happens and we need to change it, we can change it? You're writing down in your binder. Okay. Send me an email with all that stuff you wrote down. And that way I won't have to write my notes. But yeah, I like this study. It is making me think about things more, which the second book, I don't know. I mean, it was just the first little bit of it. But if she's going off on feminist kicks, it might bug me a lot, and y'all might see some raging. No, it won't. I would just like skip over that part, probably. It's probably what I would do. But I won't rage at people, because I let them do what they want to do. But I don't think I want to. I'm not sure about the second book either. But it is just the first part. So it might be just the wording was not the best in the world. It may not be, it may not be what came to our thought in the very, we'll see. We'll see. Because if something happens and we all just don't like it, we can always stop it and go on to just keep doing the other one. But we'll see what happens. And a womanist vision of woman's relationship to the Bible. That's a resource. A womanist? What is a womanist? I don't know what a womanist. We're gonna have to do some research on this, and we get brownie points if we find about Cain's lane ejector. The what? Cain's what? Something happened, Carol. I don't know what happened. Somebody wrote about that. I don't know what happened. Are you asking if we get brownie points if we find out about what happened? Cain's legacy after the flood. Well, I don't know. Do we get points here? We don't do points. We're just happy to be here together. But yeah, I don't know. But let's see. I am going to have to figure out about some of this stuff, though, because that does kind of typos don't bother me. I just usually try to figure out what they were, but I couldn't for some reason. But I do want to figure out what's a womanist. I gotta look that up now, because I don't know what that is. Womanist definition. Womanist versus feminist. Okay. The term womanist was coined by author and activist Alice Walker within her 1982 publication, In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, Womanist Prose. In addition to celebrating all women, womanists place special focus on issues specific to Black women, men, and families. Okay. What's the difference in womanism and feminism? Womanism is family-oriented and focuses on race, class, and gender, while feminism is female-oriented and strictly focuses on biological sex-related issues women and girls face globally. So it's not feminism, but okay. I'm just going to have to do a little more study, I guess. And let's see. What are the characteristics of womanism? The characteristics are following: self-naming, self-definition, family-centeredness, wholeness, role flexibility, adaptability, authenticity, Black female sisterhood, struggling with males against oppression. That's struggling with males, not against males. So that's good. Male compatibility, recognition, ambition. I guess it's good. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting it all wrong. Respect for elders. Where did it go? Something my phone was just wacko and it went away. I don't know. But it's not feminism. I don't guess. I don't know though. I don't think you can be. I don't know. Anyways, y'all, if you look it up and you find out stuff, let me know. It doesn't sound bad, but now I'm wondering if it's like gonna have, like, I know everybody's views has some kind of what is the word I'm trying to come up with? Like, it can make you think differently about some things than others, like biblically speak. Like, oh, how am I going to say this? I know that the way you view things can make you feel different about certain things. Like, you see it differently. So I'm going to have to like look into that a little bit more, because I don't know. Now we're looking to the other one too. But anyway, we can still use it and make it work because we put our hard-earned money in it. Actually, it was Jeff's hard-earned money that I spent. But actually, no, it was actually part of my YouTube money that I spent, because I got a little bit of YouTube money a couple months ago. I'm awfully late. I was making a special dinner for my son who came home for the holidays. Oh, well, that's cool, Gina, but we're fixing to go now. Yeah, I gotta go because I gotta go cook dinner for my son and me, because he'll be home at 5 and it's 3:45 now. But what I'm cooking is simple. But I'm about to go. We got a lot to look for next week. We got a lot to study for next week, and yeah, it'll definitely be on the playlist, and I have a playlist specifically for this study, so it'll be there. But I will see you guys next time. I will see you tonight in the video. It's a short one. Not much happening. But anyway, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for joining me for the Bible study. I do enjoy it a lot. And I like to hear your perspective. That's the word I was looking for. The perspective can change with a person. Yeah, that's the one. That's the word I was looking for, but I couldn't find. It just did not happen. But I'll see y'all later. Thank you for hanging out with me. And remember, don't take any wooden nickels, and be sweet.